Good evening and welcome back to Echoes of History. History, as a discipline, tends to focus on the grand narratives, the decisive battles, the rise and fall of empires, and the sweeping legislative acts. Yet tonight, our focus shifts to one of the most fundamental and seemingly benign cultural artifacts of the Western world, the nursery rhyme. These simple verses and catchy melodies are often dismissed as mere vehicles for teaching children language and rhythm, a repository of innocence. However, for folklorists and historical linguists, these structures are invaluable. They serve as highly compressed cultural microfilms capable of preserving the collective anxieties, political dissent, and tragic events of past eras in a form that transcends formal documentation. The simplicity that allows a child to memorize them is precisely the mechanism that permitted the rhymes to bypass censorship and survive centuries of oral tradition. They are, in essence, encrypted historical communiques. They carry the faint yet persistent whispers of pandemic terror, political malice, military failure, and even ritualistic sacrifice. Tonight we embark on an epistemological journey, peeling back the veneer of childhood sweetness to analyze the raw, often bizarre historical data embedded within the verses we know by heart. Prepare to understand the hidden mechanisms of cultural transmission and the darker stories that history chose to sing.
Ring around the Rosie, pocket full of posies.
We begin with the most frequently cited and chilling historical interpretation, Ring Around the Rosie.
Ring around the Rosie.
The pervasive mid-20th century interpretation links this seemingly innocuous game directly to the bubonic plague, particularly the devastating Great Plague of London in 1665. While contemporary academic consensus often cautions against establishing a definitive, direct link due to the rhyme's later publication date, the allegorical resonance remains profoundly compelling and continues to dominate popular understanding. Let us dissect the elements through the lens of historical memory. Ring Around the Rosie. This is posited to refer to the earliest and most unmistakable symptom of the disease, the circular, red, ring-like rash that appeared around the buboes, swollen lymph nodes. The Rosie thus becomes the unmistakable emblem of imminent death. A pocket full of posies. This speaks directly to the misguided medical theories of the era. Given the prevailing belief in miasma that diseases were transmitted by bad air, people would carry small bouquets of sweet-smelling herbs and flowers, posies, to ward off the foul stench of illness and the plague itself. It was a futile gesture, yet a deeply significant psychosocial response to overwhelming contagion. Ashes! Ashes! This line, sometimes rendered as a tissue, a symptom of the pneumonic plague, carries a darker, more definitive weight in its ashes form. It alludes to the sheer scale of mortality, necessitating the mass cremation of victims to prevent further contamination. It is the sound of societal collapse reduced to two words. We all fall down. The brutal, democratic finality of the plague is encapsulated here. When mortality rates soared, the concept of social hierarchy dissolved into the grim reality of shared fate. This is not a game of falling. It is the unavoidable conclusion of a civilization under biological siege. Whether directly composed during the event or created centuries later as a retrospective meditation on the terror, this rhyme functions as a powerful mnemonic device, encoding a collective memory of pestilence that is too terrifying to state plainly.
Ring around the Rosie.
10 Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, 1 Humpty Dumpty had...
Next, we examine a case where personal tragedy is eclipsed by a military allegory, Humpty Dumpty.
10 Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, 1 Humpty Dumpty...
Dispensing with the popular image of a fragile egg, historical theory strongly suggests that Humpty Dumpty was the nickname for a heavy-caliber cannon used by royalist forces during the English Civil War. This interpretation transforms the rhyme from nursery nonsense into a cryptic military report. The narrative centers on the siege of Colchester in 1648. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. This refers to the colossal gun being strategically mounted on the wall of St. Mary's Church, a critical defensive position for the royalists. The gun, likely a sacker or similar piece of heavy artillery, was the embodiment of the royalist defiance. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Parliamentary forces, recognizing the threat, concentrated their fire on the base of the supporting wall. When the wall gave way, the enormous cannon fell to the ground, shattering its carriage and rendering it irreparable. This was not a minor setback, it was a critical breach in the town's defensive morale. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. This is the core lament. The combined logistical and engineering efforts of the king's entire military apparatus were insufficient to repair the devastating damage to the irreplaceable weapon. It is an acknowledgement of total and irreversible loss. This rhyme, therefore, functions as a powerful, understated elegy for a crucial piece of war material, and by extension, for the collapsing cause of King Charles I. It is a historical record of military impotence disguised as a children's riddle.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Our investigation now moves to the architecture of fear and ancient mythological beliefs. London Bridge is falling down.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
While the most literal interpretation suggests the rhyme describes the constant state of decay, fire damage, and perpetual reconstruction required by the medieval Old London Bridge, a deeper, more disturbing theory, championed by early folklorists like Alice Bertha Gaume, points to the practice of foundation sacrifice or ritual immurement. This belief, found across various European cultures, held that a major structure, especially one traversing a powerful entity like a river, could only achieve structural permanence if a human sacrifice was buried or immured within its foundations. The soul of the victim was believed to become the protective spirit, or watchman, safeguarding the bridge against decay and natural forces. The relentless repetition, the continuous cycle of falling down, followed by suggestions to build it up again, could be seen as the recurring need to appease the spirits or the memory of the sacrifice, whose effectiveness waned over time. The enigmatic, my fair lady. This closing line is the most haunting element in this context. While often assigned to historical figures like Queen Eleanor, the immurement theory posits that the fair lady could be the soul of the sacrificed victim, perhaps a child, as some theories suggest, who has been interred to serve as the eternal guardian of the structure. A counter-theory attributes the rhyme to the Viking raid of 1014, led by King Olaf II of Norway, who allegedly pulled down the wooden bridge. However, the themes of sacred longevity and sacrificial duty, suggested by the immurement hypothesis, provide a far more profound anthropological depth to the verses. The rhyme in this light becomes a cultural liturgy commemorating a dark, archaic transaction for structural stability.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how your garden grows so cherry. Silver bells and cockle shells, pretty maids all in rows. Mary, Mary.
Our final case study reveals how political and religious dissent could be packaged for safe transmission across decades of persecution. This seemingly simple gardening song is widely interpreted as a coded attack on Queen Mary I of England, often known by the notorious epithet Bloody Mary. The rhyme served as a piece of subtle, yet virulent, Protestant propaganda following her Catholic reign. Mary, Mary, quite contrary. This refers directly to her unpopular attempts to reverse the English Reformation, making her policies literally contrary to the increasingly Protestant sentiment of the nation. How does your garden grow? The garden is not a flower patch, but a euphemism for the ever-expanding graveyard of Protestant martyrs executed during her reign. It is a cynical query about the rising number of religious victims. With silver bells and cockle shells, these are believed to be references to Catholic symbols or instruments of torture. The silver bells may allude to the Sanctus bells of the Catholic Mass, which Mary restored, or more sinisterly, to thumbscrews. The cockle shells were sometimes badges worn by Catholic pilgrims, or a euphemism for other torture devices. And pretty maids all in a row. The maid or maiden was a term for an early form of the guillotine used for beheadings in Scotland. This line suggests the orderly procession of Protestants being led to execution. This seemingly innocent children's verse is, fundamentally, a protest song, a complex network of allusions designed to transmit a subversive political and theological message under the guise of folklore. Nursery rhymes in their deeper context are not trivial. They are products of the turbulent chemistry of history. They demonstrate that the greatest human dramas, the scale of mass death, the shock of military failure, the persistence of ancient fears, and the brutality of political oppression were too significant to be allowed to perish. These simple rhythmic structures became the safest conduit for memory. They prove that history is not merely confined to treaties and royal decrees, but thrives in the common tongue, encoded in the melodies sung to children. Next time you hear one of these familiar tunes, remember that you are not just hearing a song of childhood. You are hearing the authentic, unvarnished echoes of history. Which of these historical secrets did you find most profound? Let us know in the comments below. If you wish to continue decoding the bizarre and hidden realities of our past, please like this video and subscribe to Echoes of History. Thank you for watching.